Hello, I'm Beth Britton, MBE. I support dementia community with their communications work. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Creative Dementia Arts Gave Me a Voice. Before I introduce you to our presenters, I wanted to briefly explain a little more about Dementia Community. Dementia Community is a charitable community benefit society, a membership cooperative that provides learning and networking opportunities for the dementia care community. We are an independent voice and inclusive organisation aiming to help all of our members to feel connected, informed, inspired, empowered, purposeful and engaged in co-produced changes that improve everyone's experiences of dementia, both in care and in wider society. This webinar is just one example of the many ways in which we do this. Community members own a £1 community share in Dementia Community and membership is open to everyone. So if you aren't already a member, do join us. You can use the QR code on the screen or the link in the chat to visit our membership page. If you're having any difficulties in joining Dementia Community, please do message me and I will try to help. To note, there is also an extra benefit in becoming a Dementia Community member very shortly, because our June members newsletter is going to be going out in the next few days, and we're going to be running a giveaway of the book that is featured in today's webinar. So do join us so that you can enter that giveaway if this is a topic that is of interest to you. Now, before we begin with the presentation, I wanted to share a couple of additional notices with you. Firstly, early bird tickets for the 20th UK Dementia Congress, which this year is being held at Doncaster Racecourse, are now available. If you're a Dementia Community member, you will enjoy a 10% discount on the early bird rate. So do use the QR code on the screen or the link in the chat to secure your single or 2-day ticket for Tuesday the 17th of November and or Wednesday the 18th of November 2026. Please note that early bird tickets end on the 31st of August 2026. Secondly, I'd like to signpost you to our latest editor's pick from the Journal of Dementia Care. This is a free article chosen by the editor of JDC, shared to give you a taste of the content of the journal. Please do use the QR code on the screen or the link in the chat to read the article. Remember, if you are a member, another one of your benefits is a 25% discount on a subscription to JDC. So if you enjoy the editor's pick, do subscribe. And then finally, a thank you to the Unforgettable Foundation, who have kindly set up a GoFundMe page for Dementia Community's webinar programme. Our webinars are free to attend and we want to keep them this way to ensure access for all, but providing them does have cost implications for Dementia Community. This fundraiser is intended to help meet those costs, so if you'd like to donate, please use the QR code on the screen or the link in the chat. Thank you. Now, just some very brief housekeeping before I introduce you to our presenters. So, as you should already have been alerted to, we are recording this webinar. Please use the chat for your questions. Our presenters would love to hear from you. So please do use the chat and we will have a Q&A once we've heard from our presenters. Afterwards, a recording of this webinar will go onto our YouTube channel, Dementia Community. So let's get started. So we have 4 presenters today. So welcome to David Truswell, who is Director, Dementia Alliance for Culture and Ethnicity and Chair, Dementia in Dub. Ronald Amanze, who is a music producer living with dementia, founder of Talk Dementia and a dementia champion for the Alzheimer Society. Maria Pasiecznik Parsons, who is the Chief Executive of the Creative Dementia Arts Network. And Dr. Richard Coaten, who is an independent dance movement psychotherapist. Welcome to you all. I'm very excited about this. I'm excited because I know about the book and I work with Maria. Maria is also on the board of Dementia Community, as is David as well. And I'm really excited for your lovely interactive session. So I think I'm handing over to Maria first.
Thank you. Thanks, Beth. And I'm going to ask Rod to flash up the first slide for me, just to get us going. Thank you. So, as Beth said, this is it's a wonderful opportunity to tell everybody about Arts for Dementia. And that's a shorthand. It's meant to be a shorthand. It's anything we do that's artistic and cultural practice that in which we involve people living with dementia, in which we relate, co-produce and co-design our work with them. And Richard's going to be talking further about the practice. Next slide, please. Rod, where's it gone? So 18 months and 22 authors writing 22 chapters of this handbook, largely because it wasn't there, because 10 years ago there was some work done around arts for dementia and a book came out from Jessica Kingsley. Richard and I, who've known each other for an awful long time, been in this field for an awful long time, decided that there was some legacy, and also just to give all of these people living with dementia, carers, artists, creative practitioners, professional registered practitioners, arts managers, lots of people a voice. It is and has grown to be a very, very large movement indeed. So here's the book. Hopefully you'll get it, you'll flick through it. The first section is about practicing well, introducing the field of practice, the community of practice, creativity, and reflecting on good practice. And the second section is all about creative arts practice. And we're going to hear a lot more about that from David and Ronald in a minute. But there's a wealth of information in there. There's lots of learning points and a tremendous amount of resources. And the last part is informing, developing and supporting practitioners, which is equally important because this is emotional work. You know, this is art as care and care as art. So there's lots in there about research and about support and supervision. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so this is too busy a slide to really get through, but here's some of the drivers. Where has all this come from? I mean, I think it starts with Kitwood. I think it starts from the person with dementia in capitals to the person at centre stage with the dementia. And this is Tom Kitwood for people who do know his work or perhaps don't know his work, shifting our view of dementia, our perception of dementia, and the whole culture and practice of care, and putting personhood, the person in the centre of things. And this is largely going along with a biomedical model being not quite pushed aside or turned over, because it's important we know about the biology of dementia, but actually looking at the ways in which the external world, people's attitudes, get in the way of seeing that person with dementia. And they are real barriers. And what we then get a lot of is hearing the voices of people with dementia through their books, through their writing, being ambassadors like Ronald is, and we really hear those voices clearly. We start thinking of, in the absence of a cure, non-pharmacological approaches to dementia. So this is anything but drugs and medication. We do need that. Of course we need that. But we look at psychosocial approaches. They include reminiscence, life story work, expressive and multi-sensory therapies. And we start knowing that they work. But it's not enough for us to know it works. We need to satisfy the National Health Service and other people who are saying, where's your evidence? And what we find, particularly over the last 10 to 20 years, is greater acceptance of different methods, including qualitative methods, because a lot of what, you know, NHS and other bodies say is good evidence is very high level gold standard evidence. And we know that human beings act and behave in different ways. And you can't always capture that with quantitative research. We know it's good enough because it's good enough for the National Institute for Health and Care evidence to actually put it into some of the recommendations for how you help people living with dementia. We now know that, you know, it's in there, it's good enough for NICE, and they say, actually, as a first approach, why not think about some of these expressive and multisensory therapies in terms of making connections with people who are distressed or who actually need some support? This is a huge field, and there are enormous numbers of people involved, and they call themselves by different names, and we're calling them creative arts practitioners. So they might be community artists and musicians, and they might also be professionally registered therapists. They could be activity coordinators. There are lots of people involved in making creative arts. And it's gone out not just from arts organisations. It's arts and dementia is now part of programmes in culture, heritage and external spaces. They're becoming dementia-friendly museums, galleries, theatres, cinemas, palaces and gardens. The number of arts programmes that involve in people with dementia is just enormously wide now, and it's brilliant. Over all of that, we know that arts for health has got a long history. Arts for healing has got a long history. I mean, you know, we're looking back to Greek and Roman times and looking forwards. We've always known about movement and music having powerful effects on people intrinsically. But what we look at is instrumental policies. The NHS policies now increasingly geared to public health, primary health and prevention. And to a certain extent, the NHS is saying actually arts is very good for us. But it's hard, isn't it, if you've got limited funding to shift, you know, your resources into arts for health. But if we're living well with a chronic illness or life-limiting disorder, we look for arts. And social prescribing is a good example of this. And there's a social prescribing chapter in the book. And there are big infrastructural organisations that have grown up out of the real momentum in Arts for Health, the National Centre for Creative Health, the Culture, Health and Wellbeing Alliance. And we recommend that you look at both of those sites for really good information about Arts for Health. I'm going to hand over to Richard now, and he's going to say something about practice.
Thanks very much, Maria. As you were speaking, I was thinking creative arts practitioners, yes, but also creative practitioners, creative health practitioners. There's lots of roles that people take in the arts and dementia field. And sometimes that can be quite bamboozling for those who are just dipping a toe in. But my purpose is to give a quick shout out for our chapter 2, reflecting on good practice in creative arts and dementia. So what is good practice? Good practice is what becomes established out of best practice, and what those in the field and working in the field do their best to facilitate is best practice. And then when enough of the best practice has been established, it becomes a good practice. So who am I speaking to? I'm speaking to all of you out there, particularly working as practitioners. That may be activity coordinators, that could be dance artists, visual artists, musicians, and those of you practicing in all the art forms, including creative media. So really, this is speaking to all of you. There are 4 points, really. I've only got a few minutes to speak about this, but there are 4 things principally I want to get across. The first is to acknowledge Michael Verdi, who runs the Memory Bridge Foundation in the United States. Has been pioneering the most wonderful, extraordinary. He's a visionary in the field and a mentor of mine, and I have a huge amount of respect for him. And he put a shout out, a post on LinkedIn recently, which links directly to the chapter. He said, we need to, in the field, we need to shift our attention from the abstraction called well-being to the concrete state of mattering or not mattering. So moving from well-being to mattering or not mattering. And to what extent does all the work that we do, whether as therapists, practitioners, how does it help those with whom we work to feel that they matter? That was the first one. The another one is the importance of relationship to the business of arts practice for people living with the condition and their carers, focusing on what people can still do rather than what they cannot. It matters what people can do. And in biomedical science, there's often more of a focus on what people cannot do. And if we focus on what people can do, that's really where we're all going to see the most, we're going to help people feel that they matter through that focus on relationship and connection. The third one is Michael Verdi again, which I quote in the book, this chapter 2. He talks about getting our egos out of the way as practitioners. He speaks powerfully to how people in society generally view the condition and the need to learn how to banish the shame, the fear, and isolation. I'm quoting here from the chapter 2. He argues that in everyday communications, our egos are habituated to this maxim: I'll reflect you back to you if you reflect me back to me. However, the subtleties in this process become harder and harder for people with cognitive losses, and when they reach this stage are described as, quote, having gone. He maintains that if we want to make the gone reappear, then without a cure, we have to get our own egos out of the way. And here is how to do it. And this is so important that I get this across to you. It's a key here. The next time, he says, you communicate with someone who is not at his or her cognitive best, remind yourself of this. And I quote, this is Michael Verdi. This interaction is not about me. This interaction is about someone who is seeking connections on terms that may not advance the interests or needs of my ego. I am going to go where your needs are taking you. I am going to be with you in that place, wherever and however it is. I'm going to let my ego disappear now. I am going to love you in your image instead of trying to recreate you in mine. It's a subtle argument. I'll read it one more time. I'm going to love you in your image instead of trying to recreate you in mine. We're also in this chapter, in terms of reflecting on good practice, we're also locating our work in person-centeredness and what Professor Tom Kitwood and his colleagues in the 1990s were developing. And we quote and use his the flower model that has love at the center of it. For those of you who may have come across it or not, it's the needs of people with living with dementia. It was reproduced from his book in 1997. It has love in the center, at the center, and the 5 petals of the flower, including attachment, comfort, inclusion, identity, and occupation, as all being key. We're also, for those of you practitioners, I'm closing in a moment, but for those of you looking at evaluation or at really good standards, I highly recommend you use the Creative Health and Wellbeing Alliance Creative Health Quality Framework, which Chihuahua have produced. It's a remarkable thing. And we need to identify core knowledge and skills. Now, I'm a great believer that the arts therapies have much to pass on, and to help develop arts practice in this field develop. And we have some core knowledge and skills from the arts therapies. And we're very briefly writing to these, to the importance of attunement, to the importance of metaphor, listening for and working with metaphor, illusion, and symbolism, and for going by way of the non-verbal when verbal communications may be problematic. And that's really where movement and dance comes into its own. When that's problematic. I'm also, we're referring to how you hold a group space, a creative space, and holding a creative group space, and also giving a vignette, which I won't go into. The learning points, each chapter has the learning points, and just the learning points. I'm just going to round up with the learning points from this chapter. At the heart of person-centeredness are values that help rekindle kindness, compassion, respect for a shared humanity, and inspiration through creative dialogue in an art form, at the center of which is relationship. That's very clear. Secondly, good practice must always be in the context of nothing about us without us, which helps combat isolation, loneliness, and the stigma attached to the condition. Also, I've been focusing on the how in my brief chat, on the how and not on the what. And the how underpins good practice, because the specifics of techniques and creative ideas can grow from solid values based on relational and person-centered foundations, to be quite clear. And lastly, do visit the CHAWA, the Creative Health and Wellbeing Alliance website for a more detailed look at the practice guidelines in the Creative Health Quality Framework from 2023. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Richard. I was just looking at David, because we are going to go straight into David and Ronald, and it's their chapter. So off you go, David.
Yeah. Can you put Ronald up on the screen? Because I can see you and me, Maria. I can't see Ronald on my screen.
Oh.
Hey there, Ronald. I'm sure you are, because we talk here.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good man. Right. What we're going to do, just explain for the folks who are watching, is we collaborated on a chapter in the book, and so we're going to use our collaboration method here to not literally recreate everything in the chapter, but to kind of let people get some idea of specifically what the practical implications are of the ambition to live creatively with dementia. So we're going to do that as a sort of Q&A, as we've agreed. So Ronald, I'll kick off and I'll ask you, what does living creatively with dementia mean to you?
Oh, is that a question to me?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
Okay.
Put you out there?
Yeah, I'm still appreciating the conversations I just heard.
Okay.
Living creatively with dementia for me is not, or I've come to the conclusion I don't have to communicate or express myself in the generally expected ways. After a long period of time struggling with mainstream services and seldom being listened to or understood or feeling that way, I just literally started to have conversations with myself. And those conversations I would often translate into notes on bits of paper, which people referred to when they saw it as poetry. So the question again, what was the question?
What, in your view, does living creatively mean?
Yeah.
I think it's
Yes.
not just about living with dementia, is it? It's about what do we mean by living creatively?
Oh, it means
you're exploring.
In my world, living creatively with dementia means living in my beautiful world, where I no longer have to struggle with my conversations and explaining myself or feeling misunderstood, because a lot of my conversations are within the orbit of my life, and they're mostly to be found in notepads and dementia diaries.
Because we talked about kind of it from a perspective of having like almost creative ambitions, haven't we?
Yes,
And
also, I think I should also say living with dementia is in the creative field
yeah,
is it enables me to live beautifully and joyfully under the banner of what I now call art, poetry, and bad
yeah,
behavior.
yeah,
Because so often my conversations are defined as being inappropriate or not correct, i.e., bad behavior. So I've now embraced bad behavior as something that really defines the world that I live in, and I
Right.
enjoy it very much.
Talk a bit more about bad behaviour, because I know that's something we've been chatting about a bit.
Well, it's not. See, I move very cautiously, especially when I'm talking to mainstream services, because for so long, I was always pushing back against the expectations of me to be compliant with services and to, because I used to go to a center where so much was about working with the expected. You take your medication at a certain time, you're not too loud, you're not too enthusiastic about life. And if you are too loud or enthusiastic, from my point of view, you can easily become a problem. And that problem is often be defined as bad behavior or inappropriate behavior. And I'm not complaining or criticizing anything, but for so long, I felt as if I was almost on a different planet when I was going to the center or when I was going to many of these programs, many of the dementia Alzheimer's Society programs. And when I say Alzheimer's Society, they were they were that was a beautiful experience for me. So it's no criticism about what I experienced in that world. But I was always expected to conform and behave a certain way. And that certain way made me, I was often defined as a problem. I'd often feel uninvited to certain groups um, simply because I was tagged as being a problem. And that problem was so often not loudly said, but it was said in some respects. Ronald is a problem, and that problem was bad behavior. And over time, I've grown to appreciate so much how beautiful bad behavior is, and so often I even feel those who are um, prescribing things for me, they may be the ones who need a training program around bad behavior because they are the perpetrators of bad behavior. Sounds like I'm going too deep, but bad behavior for me is part of my joy, art, poetry, and bad behavior.
Yeah.
If I didn't ramble too long, you can
No,
understand me.
I think one of the things, because I remember, yeah, because you and I have worked together for quite a while. And something that you said before, one of the turning points you referred to it earlier on was Dementia Diaries. And so maybe you could say a little bit more about what Dementia Diaries has meant to you and how that became a turning point.
Um, it's a story or a recollection that
Yeah,
I know well because I'm often um, reminded of how I became associated with an organization called Deep. And I went to an event which you actually invited me to. Um, and that when you invited me, it was in the middle of a long period of me constantly struggling with social services and my local council. And I really was exhausted in so many ways. I was going silent and giving up on so much. And I just had to come out of the area where I was living and explore something else. And when I went to this event which you invited me to.
yeah.
You invited me to an event somewhere,
It's
but
down in Brighton.
and when I found out, when I phoned up they didn't have no more room. It was oversubscribed. It was fully booked. But I had a need to just get out of where I was living. So I made my way to Brighton, and fortunately I got in, and I met all these amazing people in the Deep Network, phenomenal people, and they were doing such great things. Yeah, and they invited me to join them, and I said no, this isn't for me, because I was the only person of my cultural heritage, or I would have been the only one of my cultural heritage in the Deep Network at, at that time. But somehow I did get involved with them. They pursued me. I got involved with them, and they were the Dementia Diaries. And I realized that's when I started really putting pen to paper and sharing my thoughts and feelings and expressing myself. And I realized it was like learning a different language. And I realized that there's a world out there with so many people who have health concerns, such as a diagnosis of dementia or carers, etc. They need so much to be encouraged to express themselves and get things out of them. And I started to write diaries. I started to make new friendships. And that was the start of perhaps one of the most beautiful journeys in my life. Writing diaries, sharing my thoughts and feelings, getting it out of me. The diaries became poetry. The poetry became opportunities for me to be invited to events. So diaries became like a form of an oxygen supply for me. You know, it really helped me to have a voice and to breathe, writing dementia diaries, and they became poems.
Yeah.
And so the poems became my entry to the world of creative expressions.
I know one of the things also that an idea you developed to help other people to start to express themselves was the box of smiles. And could you say a little bit about what the box of smiles is and how it works?
Gosh, it is again, it's an encouragement for people to pick up the pen, use a pen like a paintbrush or however, and write about things that are beautiful, things that make you smile. It's not about memory, but it can be about memory. It's about just sharing conversations which are not depressing, sad, or focused towards things that are things that are, you know, just not beautiful. They're about just write about things that make you smile. It can be anything. It doesn't even have to be sensible. And we started to encourage people to do that in a few workshops or in a few situations. You yourself, David, we did a few workshops like this, and people in the workshops would often say, oh, we don't write poetry and we can't engage in that type of activity because it's not in us. And by the end of the workshop, people were writing beautiful conversations and they were smiling. So Box of Smiles is just an encouragement to write about things that make you happy.
Yeah. It's worth pointing out as well that we do get at least some people to get up and recite their poetry in the workshops.
Yes, we do. We get, because it's a situation where it's not just people with so-called health concerns, it's everybody in the room. So the facilitators, the people with the health concerns, we invite them all to share their conversations with sound. And we also mix their conversations often with music.
Yeah.
So it's just a very unplanned, almost improvised moment of creative activity where anything is possible.
Yeah. And I think oftentimes it's, I mean, we talked about this before, it's almost every workshop we've ever done, something unexpectedly beautiful happens. I was thinking of the time when the lady who found it very difficult to communicate suddenly started talking about her childhood. Do you remember that one?
I'm not certain. Maybe I do.
Okay, it was in Ladbroke Grove. And the lady started talking about her childhood in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I know the place in Ladbroke Grove. So some people who say they can't be happy and they can't be involved with things. Just need a little prompt.
Absolutely.
And that happiness starts to spill over like a fountain. So, many people, including myself, they resist opening up. And so often in the Box of Smiles workshops, people open up, they laugh, they behave. Some of them, yes, behave badly. I love behave bad, the word behave badly. And they just open up.
So I think in the spirit of demonstrating open up, I'd like to ask you maybe in the last few minutes here, if you could share with us maybe one or even a couple of your poems, just to give people an example of what living creatively means.
Yes, I've got 2 poems here.
Good man.
And this always makes me smile. I like my poetry. I find it amazing how things I write when I'm depressed or anxious or I'm on the battlefield with some situation, when I reflect on what I've written, it always makes me feel good.
Okay.
Yeah. So this one is a poem that I wrote, which is No One Told Me. Because when I was first diagnosed with dementia, I was encouraged to go home, take it easy. Don't do this, Ronald. You must now do this. And I was literally, in many respects, discouraged from being adventurous in life or exploring anything else but being very much inactive in many ways. So this poem was written due to that, and it's called No One Told Me. Okay. No one told me. Now, Ronald, go and fall in love with the world. No one said, go out there and fall in love with life again. No one whispered, it's okay. The world is still yours. Go claim it with both hands. Go and turn up the music and volume in your life. They spoke about symptoms, but not of sunlight. They told me what I might lose, but not what I could still embrace. No one told me, fall in love with your life, even now. Fall in love with the moments of so-called bad behavior. Fall in love with art. Fall in love with the world because it's still beautifully yours. So I had to tell myself, and now I tell others, when the world forgets to say it for yourself. Go and fall in love with life again, again, and again. Thank you.
Want
That's
to
the
do
point.
it? Want to do the second one, or are you okay with that one?
I will say do the second one, which is in the
Yeah,
book,
why not?
which is in the book. Thank you, Maria. And the book is again. No, this poem is in response to not being seen for somebody who wants to live with purpose. And this one, which is in the book, is called The Mountains I Still Climb. You come to see me, but you don't see me. We have a conversation, but you don't hear me. And I've been thinking, if you don't hear me, how are you going to know what I'm thinking? Your eyes fixed on me. Sometimes you smile. I always smile, and I wonder if you know why. But if you don't hear me when I'm speaking, how are you going to know what I'm thinking? And if you can't hear me when I'm calling, how are you going to know that I'm falling? And though I no longer dance beneath quiet skies, nor run across open fields, I wonder if you'd believe the mountains I still climb. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to have to interject
That's
there.
fine. That's
Say,
we finished.
that was fantastic. Thank you. I know we're not quite done. I know you've got Maria's going to wrap up, but just Ronald, there's so many lovely messages in the chat. I'm sure you're seeing all of these little emojis creeping up the screen. I think people have really appreciated that, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just mind-blowing, really. I just, just lots of people in tears, lots of people just so moved, Ronald. And obviously I am. And I'm so thankful, so grateful that you've been able to do that for us. And you're going to do it again. So that's the seg really to the conference, our upcoming conference, that you're going to say a bit more about Box of Smiles and maybe do a bit of a demo. So my final slide, please. Magic rod. There we are. Oh, the last one. So there's one after that. That's it. Okay. I mean, I've been knocked out ever since I met Ronald and David, and it's extraordinary. And they're going to take part in a conference, a conference at the Watershed in Bristol on Thursday the 9th. There are details there. I know Beth's going to share the details as well. There's still some tickets left. We've got David and Ronald. We've got Richard dancing and telling us about dance and dance for dementia, dance for carers living with Parkinson's. That's Dr. Melanie Barley, a colleague of ours. We've got Kiana Raps, who are coming to demonstrate how head wraps can prompt reminiscence. So there's loads and loads of things going on. There's all the presentations. Some of the authors from the book are going to come and tell us about their chapters. And we've got Napa, our good friends and partners who are exhibiting and talking about arts in care homes. We've got Famous Marks Theatre, Magic Me, who won our UKDA award for arts and culture, sponsored by CEDAN and Dementia Community, selling the handbook at a special conference price. And it's, do come and join us and come and listen to more of Ronald and David. It'll be a gas. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. Ronald, you have definitely stolen the show because I think that was just incredibly powerful, and lots of love in the chat up the screen. everything. I think people really appreciated that. And it's the first time, although I've seen you at conferences and events, it's the first time I'd actually been able to pause when I'm not running around doing 100 different things and actually just enjoy that as well. So I think that was amazing and such powerful, powerful messages. And I wanted to pick out a few of them. So first and foremost, we've got some questions in the chat and I will get to those in a moment. For anyone who's not familiar with Kitwood's flower, do go and have a look at that. There's no one website I can send you to for that, but if you hit a search engine, including Google, you will find the Kitwood flower. Now, Ronald, I really took on board some of the things you said. You said that living creatively means you don't have to struggle. It's beautiful and joyful. Art, poetry, and bad behaviour. I think my children would be particularly keen on the emphasis on bad behaviour, since they absolutely love that. You said that for some people, you were too loud and too enthusiastic, and you were expected to conform. And I think that's such an important message for anyone who's on this webinar today or watching on the recording, who unintentionally perhaps does expect people to conform. I think we see a lot of beauty when we let people be themselves, and to behave in all kinds of different ways that are normal and happy and wonderful for them, and we can all join in with that as well. So I've just loved all of that, and I just want to add my own little anecdote. When my dad could no longer hold a conversation, he could still sing a song, beginning to end, word perfect. That was my dad. It's the power of arts, and it's what you've all really enthused about today. I would urge everyone to get along to the conference if you can on the 9th of July, and also to buy the book, because you'll find so much of what our presenters have spoken about today in the book. Now we have some questions, so I will stop rambling because nobody wants to hear any more from me. So first question is, how do we introduce creativity to someone diagnosed with dementia who might never have considered this, or their carers make the decision for the diagnosed? I'm going to send that to you, Maria, and I'll leave you to filter accordingly.
No, and also to ask my fellow group members, but certainly, one feels that anyone going to another agency, to a general practitioner or to a memory clinic, ought to have those agencies, or that first point of contact ought to have some way of pointing out the opportunities available in a locality, for example, to join a choir, to go to do other creative outside the home, let's say workshops or whatever. But and within the book, we do explore it. We are creative beings. Everything we do every day often is about creativity, whether we're cooking a meal or watching a television program or whatever, and so it's thinking about helping and supporting carers, particularly, to think about keeping that creativity going. And some of it's about independence, and some of it's about improvising, just letting go a bit, and enabling people to express themselves in any way they want to, which might be not the way they were. Richard, can I go over to you?
Yeah, I'm just going to say one thing, because I'd love to hear from Ronald's your answer to that question, Ronald. But how do we introduce creativity to someone diagnosed with dementia who might never have considered this? Well, quite simply, what helps them to feel they matter? That's the question, and to help them feel that they still matter, and it doesn't matter. It could be any art form. It could be a song. It could be sharing a memory. It could be a movement. Anything. It could be playing a nice track on a playlist. Anything. But what helps them to feel they matter? That's creativity in essence, for me. Ronald, I'd love to hear your sense of that question, and what might what you would say to that.
When I got diagnosed with early onset of dementia, I was with my daughter, and they gave me a book, And that book made no reference to beautiful things in life. So maybe they could have given me another book which told me that there was still beauty in life. And it could have told me about art. It could have told me about exploring environmentally beautiful situations, learning about nature, learning about something else, whatever it might be, other than learning how to cope with the situation and take the medication that I was put on. So I think they should have two books with the diagnosis. You know, they said, here you are, Ronald, here's a book, go home and read it, and come back and tell us if you want to start the medication. They could have given me another book, which told me, here you are, a book, Ronald, go home and read this book. And remember, life can still be beautiful and you can still live with purpose and joy.
I wonder if perhaps the answer to the question, everyone, is for everyone to have access to a box of smiles. And I'm going to have to ask that question. And perhaps that's to David or to Ronald. How do people get hold of a box of smiles? Is there a website? Is there somewhere where people can find out about this?
No, you have to be. I mean, I think one of the good things about the box of smiles, it's Ronald's idea, and the point of it is that you don't have to be an expert. I mean, you could get the idea about how it works by participating. Anybody could do it, and I'm not these days. I'm not sure that there would be any in that particular instance any point about. Having a book, because the impact is through doing it, and because every time we do a box of smiles, and Rod does box of smiles with other people, every time that's where it happens, where there are people in that room who say, I can't do this, I have no idea about doing this, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. And by the end of it, there's at very least, 2 or 3 people who will be up there reciting their poem with a bit of kind of music background accompaniment and to wild applause. And oftentimes there'll be people who say, I have never done anything like this before in my life. But again, I think, I'm not going to speak for you, Ronald, but a lot of the things that we do are absolutely experiential. You have to be there. Something less directly experiential. I know, Ronald, you work with more this with Ellie on the picture book exercise. He's going to just give people a camera and taking pictures in their own lives, and them talking about what the pictures meant. But again, that's a very experiential approach. You can explain it in 2 lines and 3 lines, but you have to just do it. Ronald, do you want to comment on that? Because I don't want to.
No, that says it perfectly well. And a lot of the box of smiles is like a state of mind. I'm always happy with inside me. It's like I've encouraged my mind to be happy and to be joyful about things. And it's just something, it's like a state of mind that we encourage each other to have. I can't explain it, sorry.
Mm-hmm. I think that you've kind of summed it up though, and it just makes me smile. Just even thinking about a box of smiles makes me smile. So that in itself. Another question, is there anywhere we can access a copy of Ronald's poems, please? So I know you said one is in the book. Is there anywhere else?
I would like to jump in there.
Yeah.
I've got a few. I'd send them to Maria. I've got a few. I did a couple of, because I actually did a couple of box of smiles, because I turned other people's smiles into smiles. Wendy Mitchell, for instance, R.I.P. Wendy Mitchell, and Tommy from the Deep Network. they were encouraged to write about smiles, and I turned them into put music with them. So you can find them online if you put in a box of smiles, maybe Ronald Amanze. You'll find copies of a box of smiles with music, but I'll send them to David, and David can send them to Maria.
Okay.
But there's lots of boxes. If you want a box of smiles, many of you have got boxes of smiles in your jacket and your bags. Many of you are walking around with boxes of smiles and you don't even know you've got them. But yeah, I'll get David to share it. Sorry, I can't answer that question again either.
That's okay. We can add links to the description box on the recording on YouTube as well. So anything that comes our way, we can add those, absolutely. I think this is one from Maria. Your conference, can it be accessed online or in person or both? And I think the answer is in person only, isn't it?
Yes, I'm afraid it's in person only. Yes, that's right. In person only. I think it's a very in-person conference. I think it'd be a great day. Coming into Bristol, very nice cultural place. Plenty more of what we've been talking about today.
Absolutely. And I think if you can't get there, grab the book, become a member so you can have the chance to win the book as well. Those are all excellent, excellent ways forward. There is so much love in the chat. Ellie Robinson Carter, thank you so much for posting Nobody Told Me. There is a link there. So do go and have a look at the link that Ellie's just put in. That's very, very helpful. Thank you very much. And Jan Brown, I think did you beat Ellie to it? Possibly you did. So yes, thank you to those that have popped things in the chat. That's really, really helpful. You've made people cry. So it's not often I have people cry on my webinars, but Cara said sitting with tears in her eyes. I'm very moved by your poetry. A couple of reflections that have always kind of burnt into my memory. You talked about the late, great Wendy Mitchell, but a couple of reflections that have really burnt into my memory from other people I've worked with who've lived with dementia. I remember Gail Gregory said to me, she said she was told at school she was terrible at art. I hope I'm recounting this correctly, Gail. Told she was terrible at art, and therefore she just never did art again until she developed dementia. And I think she went to some peer support, like Ronald's described with Deep.
Can I say something?
Was it you?
No. But the first box of smiles I did was based on a poem that Gail wrote. I just remembered. I've got it somewhere. I think I wrote to her, asked if I could use it. She wrote something about, in fact, the name Box of Smiles might have come from Gail. I'll look for it and find it. Yes, I just remembered Gail Gregory.
Yeah, Gail's amazing, and she has a wonderful art room, and art has been a huge therapy for her in her life with dementia, as many of you may know. But to be told so young in life you're just rubbish at something, and to never revisit it until you have what is a life-changing diagnosis. And whoever encouraged Gail to go back to her art, thank you very much, because she does some amazing pictures.
Yeah.
Very inspirational for my daughter, who's absolutely, she always wants to know when Gail's got new pictures out. So it's never too late to start. I think that might be an important message. Would you all agree? It's never too late to start being artistic in any way, shape, or form. Do we have any closing remarks? I'm kind of done with the questions. There's just so many thank yous. People have found this so uplifting, so inspiring. I think perhaps the ask would be go try something, wouldn't it? Maria, Richard, David, Ronald, just say to people, go try something.
Yeah, just do. But I think also, Ellie, could you put a link in the chat to the photo book project as well, which is something people would be interested in? Yes, absolutely. Go and try something, and don't leave it till tomorrow. Please do it today.
Yeah. You know.
Can I just add, Beth, there's a lot in the book, the Creative Dementia Practice Handbook, for practitioners, those interested, those want to know more about the whole field. I just say that this is an incredibly exciting, what we've discovered, Maria and I, from the research is that we've done for the book is that it's an incredibly exciting time to be pioneering this now because, or developing this, the Darzi report 2024 talked about moving from hospitals to preventative, moving from hospitals to community, moving towards preventing problems in our health, preventative health cares, just huge changes. And the arts could be at the heart of that. And I hope all of you can hear this, that the arts can be at the heart of the change of our health services and how they're provided. There's so much we offer to it, whether as arts therapists, as the best in arts practice does that. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Ronald, I'm deeply moved by what you said. It's been an honor to be sharing this platform with you. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I would definitely second that. And I would say, if you work in diagnostic services, your little action is go away and create that second book, the one that says life can be beautiful and you can still have hope and you can find those special moments. Thank you all so much. It's been a wonderful, wonderful webinar with you, and we really appreciate your time, your expertise. You've made us feel a bit emotional, but it's been wonderful. And as I say, do join the conference, do buy the book, do join Dementia Community for a chance to get the book. And yeah, thank you again to our presenters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our next webinar is Team Houston. Together we make Agnes's life with dementia joyful. And it is on Monday, the 6th of July. Do visit our webinars page on our website to find out more and book your free tickets. It's another chance to hear from someone living with dementia, which I think is such a valuable experience for all of us. So do come along to that webinar. I would also recommend following us on Eventbrite. That's where you will find out first and foremost when a new webinar goes live. All our summer ones are now live up until our break in August, but the autumn ones will be going live over the summer, so don't miss out on seeing those. And we very much look forward to seeing you on another Dementia Community webinar soon. Thank you.